Hello everyone, welcome back on today's Total Drama What If, and today we have What If Alejandro was an island replacing Heather. I'm going to try and make this a series, so we're going to first start off with Island, obviously, and then Action, where Alejandro just replaces Heather, and then this time Heather debuts in World Tour along with Sierra. So, if you like today's video, make sure to like and subscribe for more. Comment your what if ideas down below, and if I can, I will make it a video if you would like me to. But starting today off, it's Not So Happy Campers. Everyone's introduced. I do think Alejandro would just go on the team with that Heather was on, because it's the easiest idea I could think of, and switching the teams would be kind of confusing, and then, But there's a big change. So obviously, Lashana doesn't throw Alejandro off the cliff because she doesn't. Alejandro would probably jump, but that means there's still two chickens on each team: DJ and Courtney, and then there's one on the Screen Gophers being Beth. This doesn't change the winner at all. Screaming Gophers, I do believe, would still win this challenge, but it already changed it in the first episode. Since um the team's number of women are now even, I don't think Ezekiel would have a reason to say, oh, how did we lose? We have less women on the team. So I do think Courtney would get out first. Just because of that. Because she was bottom two with Ezekiel, and Ezekiel wouldn't have say the thing that would get him eliminated, and I do think the other bottom two would probably be her or maybe Harold. Okay. So the big sleep is really similar, but there is a big difference in this episode. Obviously, the Screaming Gophers would still win because Gwen is here and Alejandro. I don't think he could stay awake longer than either of these two, but since he's on the team with the winner anyway, it doesn't matter. But something's interesting here. I do think Eva would stay because Heather is no longer here to steal Eva's MP3 player. So she's fine. She doesn't get rageful at her team, and she doesn't crash out on her team for no reason. Um, so I do think that out of all these people who would go to sleep first, I do think Ezekiel would go to sleep first. He did save himself from the last challenge by not saying it, but you could make the argument that he did say it here because they have less girls now. But also, I just don't see him going far either, so he would be eliminated here. Dodgebrawl. Ooh, okay. Dodgebrawl. This, in my opinion, is a sweep. So, obviously, Duncan would go to sleep because he's sleeping, but I don't think it would matter because Eva's here now. And Eva would just wake his ass up. So, I think Eva, Duncan, DJ was pretty good. Jeff, Harold on support. No, actually, Bridget on support would just dominate this challenge because their best players are Owen, Cody, maybe Lashana. It's a toss up between these two. We don't know how good. Probably Alejandro, but like maybe one of these. But it would just be a sweep, and I don't think it would matter that Noah sit out because I don't think these guys are winning a single one of the points. I think it's 3-0. Um, So I think this is where Alejandro starts making alliances, but he starts working on people. Obviously, he can get into these people's heads with ease. I think he will notice Tyler and Lindsay's relationship, so he'll start working on Lindsay and get her into a little alliance. But I also think he can work on Beth. But this might just look like Heather, but he's not doing what Heather did because this time Now he's gonna say to these people, because he can work Owen with ease, and he could probably convince Justin to as well. The only one I would see that would be suspicious of him would be Noah, maybe Gwen, but I don't think Gwen would yet. So I think that he would tell the team, "Oh, these two sold because they were after me. They were looking at me the entire time. Maybe you could say the same thing. They were looking at Justin." He would convince the team that Lindsay or Beth sold the competition, and I think so. The people voting Beth outweighs the ones voting Lindsay because she has no allies. She has not been shown to talk to anyone. And at least Lindsay has made conversations with some people. Cause I would say she would stay over Beth. Not quite famous. Okay, so this is another big changer. So Courtney isn't even here to break her violin, and who Heather isn't here to read Gwen's diary. So I think it would be Trent's guitar play, Justin doing Justin. But now we have to figure out who's going to play. I think they would let Owen do his thing because the only one that disagreed was Heather, and then she forced Lindsay to say she doubles that. So I think these three would go. But this time, since Courtney's not here, I think she would. I think Bridget would probably be the team captain. There or Duncan, and I think it would be Bridget. She would let, being the nice person she is, she would let Harold try out, and obviously his beatboxing would be great, so he would go up. DJ would also go up, and here's where it gets tricky. I assume she would go up with herself, just because she's the captain and she can nominate herself now, and she went up the last time before she vomited everywhere. But I don't think she would throw up this time, if that makes sense. Nor would the giant pothole be there because of the corny thing. I do think Killer Bass would win just because of Harold's full bar. And this is where Alejandro wants his competition god. So he grabs Owen, he grabs Lindsay. I think these are going to be his two main allies because they're just easy to work. And he grabs Lashana over here too because he can swoove Lashana with a lot of ease. The only girls I would say he can't swoove are these two. And then they all try and get the team to vote off Justin. He doesn't want anyone else being good looking, so I think he's just gone because of Alejandro views him as this threat of his category. And there isn't anyone on the team that really sold that challenge. The Killer Bass has played better. So I think he would be eliminated. One could make the statement that they could get Cody on their side too, probably Izzy. But yeah, I think either way you look at it, it's just he's messed. The Sucky Outdoors. Okay. This one is very similar. I would say pretty much identical to the original series because I would say this is like a filler episode basically because the same thing happens. Izzy goes, dresses up as a bear, scares the team into crawling up a ladder. Not a ladder, a tree. And I don't think Alejandro, he's not dumb, but obviously I don't think he would be smart enough to realize, oh, that's not a bear, that's Izzy. And then even if he was, the other bear would come. And maybe he could swoove the bear, but it wouldn't change the outcome because the Killer Bass still lose because Katie and Sadie get lost. See, I'm gonna change it up a bit though and vote off Sadie because rewatching the series a few days ago, Katie was just always better in challenges. Like especially the dodgeball one, Sadie didn't do anything, and then Katie actually made it to the finale with DJ, won one, and then did pretty well in the first round. So I don't know why they voted off Katie in the first, but yeah, Sadie's eliminated because of them showing up late, causing them to lose the Killer Bass to lose the challenge. So Phobia factor. This one is interesting. I'm just gonna say for plot stories that Katie's Fear is also bad haircuts because they share a brain. But here's where it gets interesting. We have to figure out what Noah, Eva, and Alejandro's fear is, and I think I could tell which one it is. So Eva, I honestly can't tell you what her fear would be. I just would say she would get the point. But let's just say maybe her fear is like eating a bunch of junk food, messing up her body, or like something like that. Noah's probably, I mean, he's scared of mummies. I was in World Tour, but like, who wouldn't be? Like, who could just say he's scared of just like an animal or something? Maybe a mummy, yeah. Alejandro, we've already seen he's scared of his brother. He can conquer that fear as he did in All Stars. So I think the people getting the point for their team is Katie with the head haircuts, um, Jeff with the hail. Harold does not. Tyler does. I don't know why they didn't give Tyler the point. He said sit in the coop. He sat in the coop. Maybe it's because he had to touch the chicken, but here, I'll just make it sure he doesn't. DJ gets his. Bridget doesn't get his because Cody doesn't get his. Duncan will get his. Eva will get hers, so that's 5 points. Alright, Cody fails. Alejandro succeeds. Gwen succeeds. Trent succeeds. Izzy succeeds. Owen succeeds. I don't think Lashana succeeds because she just ran away. Lindsay succeeds. And even if Noah or, Noah fails or succeeds, it's still 1 more point. I could say just Eva is the tiebreaker, but I would say that's going too much deep into it. Plus, I feel like that wouldn't be fair because Eva would definitely do it. I think this is identical to the last one, and Tyler since he just has no allies, he's just voted off here. I hate to see him go, but yeah, he wasn't really that competitively strong in the first season, so I don't see a reason why that should change. Up the Creek. Up the Creek, I would say, is mostly the same. So you got your partners. So first pair of this team would be Jeff and Jeff and DJ. I would say Bridget and Katie, and then Harold can come along, and then Duncan and Eva. Obviously, these two would be talking about the present Jeff got her. Harold would probably comment saying, "Oh, it was a nice gift," but yeah, you know how that still goes. And then to it is bond over being strong. People, Since Owen can't go with Heather this time, I think it would just go with Alejandro. Cody would go with Gwen. Lindsay and Jeff would go together. Then Izzy with yeah. I think this pair would be good. She replaces Beth. I think the same thing would happen. Lindsay gets stuck in quicksand. Cody saves her. Harold puts all the oars into the fire, and then Izzy causes the challenge by giving DJ the idea to push all the boats, causing the killer bass to win. And this is the same. She doesn't get eliminated, but the IRS. She gets arrested for tax fraud or something. Paintball deer hunt. So here's where it gets confusing with paintball deer hunt, because the killer bass, no one got shot from the killer bass. Okay, let me do the teams first. Jeff, Bridget, Harold are the hunters, and the hunters are here would be Noah, Lindsay, and Lashana. Okay, so the reason I think this is the same outcome is because none of the killer bass got found, and since this team isn't really better than the last one, the only thing that changes Beth isn't here and Noah's here now, but I wouldn't say that's any of an advantage. I do think these three could still find anyone. I forgot to put Owen. Um. Oh yeah, I think Katie was also a hunter. Maybe I don't. Or Sadie was also a hunter. Was she a hunter? I don't know. I don't think so. Because I think all the hunters were staying together on the killer bass. But um. Yeah, I think the killer bass would win this. Just because it's the same outcome. The only one that was actually close to finding anyone was Owen. He almost found Duncan and DJ, but he failed both. Yeah, Lindsay would not fire anything. Lashana couldn't find anyone, and I don't think Noah would do that well in a forest challenge, causing Creaming to lose again with his alliance with Owen and Lindsay. Alejandro starts swooving, saying, "I think honestly, even if he swooved, the challenge would be or the elimination would be the same, just because of the fact that even with these guys saying, oh, they saw the challenge, I think Noah would try and tell Trent and Gwen that Alejandro's up to something, and they probably could see that, but he doesn't have enough evidence. But even with that, him asking these three to vote with him, because Alejandro is voting for Noah because he doesn't want anyone onto him. But I do think this elimination would go to Cody. Because just of the sole fact, because Heather tried convincing the team to vote for Beth, but even Owen didn't listen, and he's usually a follower. The Alliance E, not the Alliance Er, as he says, and he still voted for Cody. And these three would also vote for Cody. Maybe not Gwen, because she did something nice with Trent with him, but then yeah, no one would vote for Cody just to be safe. So in a 4-2-1 vote or a 5-2 vote, Cody would be eliminated. Okay, here is where it gets interesting because of the fact, honestly, this is where the story really changes because now these eliminations really just like didn't change anything. Like this was the same, this was the same, but now we still have new faces here that haven't made it this far in the competition before. This doesn't seem like a big change, but Eva's a big threat, which means since she isn't eliminated anymore, you know, she's not going to come back in the merge because she's here. But here is another interesting challenge. If you can't take the heat, I think Alejandro would volunteer for his team as the team captain. Jeff would always do the same, already do the same. Teams are, I would say, DJ and Bridget on the pasta, Duncan and Eva on desserts, and these two on the appetizers. So this one was about the same. I would say Lashana with Noah, Lindsay with Gwen, Trent with Owen. Owen would still knock out Trent, giving him a concussion, causing, yeah. And even when they were done with the ribs, Owen would still eat them because he was in charge of the food, watching. Even with that, they still mess up the cake. I don't think head chef really matters here. They're just the one that says what to cook, not really cooking it themselves. Causing the Killer Bass to win again. 3 losing streak. Whoosh. So I do think that Alejandro, he's pissed off. He wants to win, and he doesn't see with his alliance that he's winning at all. So I think he recruits Lashana and convinces these two that just, oh my god, guys, no, Owen has been a liability this entire time. He didn't do anything in paintball deer hunt. He didn't do anything at up the creek. He weighed us down, and now he just ate the entire plate of ribs. And they're like, oh yeah, he did do that. He did do that. So like, why not vote him off? So Alejandro really hating Owen the most out of every one of them, I think makes sense, and I do think he would eliminate Owen here just because he despises him, causing I would say a 5-2 vote for both of them voting Alejandro. I think Noah could convince Owen to drive Alejandro, but it's still 5-2, causing Owen to be eliminated. Who can you trust? This one I think is a very simple one. You got Harold and Bridget on the electric eels, Bridget and Jeff on the food, Katie and Eva on the apples, Duncan and DJ on the climbing. But here's different. This is different, and I think I would like this. So this team is obviously way different. So I think this time, instead of Gwen and Heather climbing the mountain, obviously, I think it would be Noah and Alejandro. I do think this is a great pair to have up, just because they really don't trust each other. And I think Noah or Alejandro would win this competition just because Duncan and DJ get stuck because of that fall. And then in the next one, you got the cooking one. Obviously, ends up in Jeff and Bridget taking the point. And then you got the electric eels with um, Lindsay and Lindsay and Heather. Since Heather isn't here, we're doing Lindsay and Alejandro. And then the eels with Bridget and Harold. They would win this point. And then the other one with the apples, Eva and Katie with Lashana. Owen's not here anymore, so I guess he'll put put Noah here. I do think the Scream Gophers would take this. I think I would reverse this to be so Noah's the aimer. I do think Katie is not shooting it because even with her shooting while the game was even, Sadie was even over, she didn't hit anything. So I do think it would end up a tie, causing the Killer Bass having DJ and Jeff, Gwen and Lashana. But since Duncan found him a new bunny, because the other bunny got eaten by a snake, then eaten by a bird, DJ would take his blindfold off, breaking the rules, causing them to lose. I do think just because of the sole fact that she lost the challenge, I think Katie would be eliminated here. Just because Eve was a threat, they would want her on, but she didn't really do anything wrong yet. DJ, yeah, took his blindfold off, sold the challenge, but it didn't really matter because the fact that, yeah, they would have lost anyways. If they would have won, actually, if Katie hit the apple. Basic straining. So this one is, I think, is very similar. I think in Duncan and Eva would obviously have a good friendship, and I don't think they would get together. That's a weird thing to go on. But in basic straining, I think it's very similar because I think the Scream Gophers are easily taking the win still. Just because the only thing that's different here is that Eva's here, and I don't think she's outlasting Gwen, the Batgirl, in a tree. I don't think Harold sabotages the votes here solely because of the fact he only did because he saw Duncan kiss Courtney, and Courtney's not here, causing them to not kiss, and Harold be eliminated, and that whole plot with these two would probably be in this episode because he was sending letters a lot, just this entire time. Getting his little kiss off with Lashana. This thing is interesting because now Extreme Torture, you would get obviously DJ and Trent to jump first. Then you would have these two to ride the the moose, and then the driver would be Duncan, and I think the driver would be Bridget, or the server for the other team would be Bridget. So I think the driver for this team would be Alejandro, and the surfer would obviously be the skier would be Lindsay. I do think that the Killer Bass would win because they would have won that if Harold didn't get distracted by Heather, you know. But he did, and that's the whole reason they lost. Um, and yeah, that's the whole reason they lost because Harold got distracted by Harold's or by Heather's distraction, as they say. And I do think just the sole fact of him losing the competition and Alejandro seeing that Trent and Gwen are falling for each other, I think he would get Lindsay and Lashana on his side to vote off Trent because he's like, oh, guys, they're going to team up in the merge. I think Lashana can convince Noah just because they don't know that they're a pair. And I think Trent would be eliminated just as the sole fact because he did not win. And you can't really blame anyone else, this loss on anyone else because Lindsay didn't get to go because the Killer Bass already just won the competition before the round even started. Brunch of disgustingness. All right, here's where the teams get different. So obviously Trent isn't here, Noah is, Heather isn't here, Eva is, and Owen isn't here, Alejandro is. This doesn't really matter, but I'm gonna say it anyways. I do think the girls would win. This is the fact is Alejandro doesn't like eating, the foods. He has to have Courtney to cheat for him because he doesn't. He's a really picky eater because of his body. So I do think the girls would win. I don't think it matters, but I do think the girls would win. And even if it does come down to the tiebreaker, I think the people they would pick would probably be Duncan, maybe Jeff, and then I think Lashana because she would just be able. But it's 50-50. I think Duncan might be able to eat more than Lashana in a 1v1. Now it's time to see who comes back. So obviously I'm going to pick this time. I'm going to pick one male and one female to return. All right, these are the people I've chosen to come back, and I think obviously this is obvious. Izzy never got eliminated; she just got tracked down by the police, and Courtney would sue the show to get back on. So I think this is a good, good comeback. Since I think Eva would have character development, they wouldn't hate having her around. Plus, Eva wouldn't be all mad at everyone for being eliminated. But I think these are the teams or the team ups right now. I would say this is a team up just for the Killer Bass. These three, maybe they can get obviously their old teammates on there. I think Gwen and Lashana would be a pair. Maybe Noah's getting thrown in there. Alejandro and Lindsay. But I do think Alejandro would see the time to get Gwen on his side. Not Gwen, Courtney. I think he could, just because of how good he worked her in World Tour. Obviously, this challenge doesn't change anything. The same winner is here, so I don't see why no one would stop her. Lashana wins this competition. She wins against the bear roll. And I think this elimination, just because she has no allies, instead of Eva going home, I think it would be Izzy. Because she has no allies. Everyone thinks she's crazy. Alejandro can't swoon her, so he wouldn't need a reason to keep her there. No one doesn't give reason to keep her. Yeah, so she came and then she went. Search and do not destroy. This one is interesting because obviously, Heather isn't here to kiss Trent, and Trent's already gone. So I think Duncan would start obviously being all bitter batter with Courtney again. They would start having their little thing going on. Alejandro would probably try and work Eva, but Eva probably wouldn't care. I know she might care because she did get swooned by Justin a lot, and it's only after Island where she really didn't care about that. So maybe it would work. But I think in hide and seek, do not just search and do not destroy. I think Alejandro would try and mess up Jeff and Bridget because obviously Bridget can swoon over Alejandro, and I think he would make Bridget swoon over her because even when she was actually with Jeff, she was not with Jeff at this point, but even when she was with Jeff, she was getting swooned over by Alejandro, and I think he would be able to kiss her again with Jeff seeing that and getting all sad, telling his friends, his boys, they would get pissed. telling everyone. I think they would get Courtney, Lashana, Eva, Gwen, and Noah. All these to vote off Bridget, just because of how sad he was. Poor Jeff. But at the dock, they make up because they realize it was all Andre's fault. And Jeff does report this, saying he knows what Alejandro did. Making Noah also make his notes on it, telling everyone that he knows what Alejandro does. He's been swooning, working with Lindsay from the very beginning. But Lashana's still at the down low, but he does suspect Lashana because Lashana's always not been in a different vote than Alejandro. But he keeps it to himself for now. But he does expose Lindsay and Alejandro, making Alejandro a big threat now. So hide and be sneaky. This is where the guys' alliance starts. But here's where it's interesting. I think he would still make an alliance, but I think the alliance would look like this. These three. Because of the fact that he only made the guys' alliance because there was 4 guys, aka Duncan, DJ, Jeff, and Owen, and 6 girls, aka Heather, Gwen, Lindsay, Izzy, Lashana, and Bridget. But I don't think he made a guys' alliance. I think he's just I mean, this is technically a guys' alliance, but you know what I mean. But I do think he would try and sneak Courtney in there and call it the Killer Bass Alliance. Maybe they would invite Eva, but I don't think so. Don't think they would risk that, having that big of a target with them. But after hide and be sneaky, we already know who wins this. Lashana wins again. So I think they would obviously, since they eliminated Bridget, I think they would be eliminating someone that's good at sports, and that person is Eva. Just because of how strong, physical, and overall ruthless she is, they would eliminate Eva. I think it just makes sense. And obviously Owen isn't here to spout their alliance off, so they would never get caught. Yet. They're not exposed yet. That's off the chain. Okay, this one's interesting because this is an instant elimination. And also, Izzy isn't here to stop Lashana from making a bike. But let's just skip to who crosses the finish line. I think Duncan's boat or Duncan's car crosses. I think Courtney would cross. Lindsay would cross. And I would like one more. I would say Alejandro would cross. I think at the landmines, Courtney just blows up. she blows up like Owen did, and then at the oil slick, Duncan falls over. And I do think Alejandro would probably outrace Lindsay. And the same thing would happen again, like the beginning, causing her to be eliminated. Just like before, where she technically crosses it last. Here, Hook, Line, and Screamer. I know this is boring, but I am going to have to call it the same because this is a purge, and I do think it would go to whoever survived the worst. And I think that maybe Duncan would scare him as a joke. Maybe anything could happen, but I do think DJ would get eliminated. I know Heather's not here for him to get scared, but it is whoever survives the worst. And these two survived. These two survived great. He would survive really good. Yet even if he didn't get scared by Heather, Jeff gets laid away by the ice cream truck, and then DJ gets caught. Lashana survived really well. Courtney would probably survive really well, and Noah would probably stay with Duncan and Gwen and Alejandro. So yeah, and Courtney would probably stay with them as well. She's not. These 5 aren't dumb. It's just yeah. I do think DJ would get eliminated. Wawanakwa gone wild. I do think this is a very interesting one because I do think that Alejandro would win this challenge. Just the fact he can charm his animal and make it go with him. But when you first, I don't know if this was a mistake or not in the like writing, But when Gwen, she won the challenge, but she was in the bottom two with Izzy. So I don't think he would be safe. But I do think with this alliance going on, Alejandro, since he technically still has he's swooning over Courtney, but Courtney likes Duncan, and he would save his own ass with Lashana vouching for him, causing everyone here. Duncan and Jeff would just go with it because it's the safe vote to do, and getting his number one arch guy off his back and eliminating Noah. Noah played really hard, but not hard enough because of just his lack of social skills. He can't really persuade people like Heather, or not Heather, Alejandro, Courtney, and Duncan can. He's way better at the game than him. He'll be back. He'll be back. Don't worry. Um, triathlon. So I think the groups here would be Duncan and Lashana, Gwen and Jeff, and Alejandro and Courtney. I think it happens the same, but there's a huge difference this time. Okay, I think Courtney would win the eating competition. She's obviously showed to have the best eating skills there, like in World Tour, in that Chinese challenge. So I think she would win the eating competition. Jeff throws the statue all the way into the cave, getting them a point, and then they have the best memory because I feel like Courtney would try and argue that she's not last anymore because she's still here, so she doesn't want to put her head on the totem at the very bottom. So anyone's eliminated tonight. I think this vote is the same, just because Duncan is a very backstabby guy, and since he has Courtney now, he doesn't think he would need him, and he does. And Lashana said in her vote, if it was down to a popularity contest, she would lose to Heather. She votes Heather, but Heather is not here. And Alejandro would do the same, causing Jeff to be eliminated. Okay, this one is very boring, but actually we can have some cool interactions now because of the fact that one of the people that are not supposed to be there are now there. And, I would think that's pretty funny. But I do think this Lashana would be eliminated. Just the sole fact that, you know, it just wouldn't make any sense to not, because it already happened, and I don't think Owen being there is changing anything. The parrot would still eliminate her. Now it's time for the final four. Are we there, Yeti? And this one's very interesting because I think Duncan and Alejandro would win this competition. But I also think it would come down to a tie. So, because of the fact she already has sensitive going bad direction and trying to take advantage because she's a CIT. So I think that's the main reason they lost, because they can't work together that well. And these two can definitely work together well. But I think in a tiebreaker, Gwen would lose to Courtney. This one is, I think, something similar would happen. I think they would split their freebies and team up on Alejandro, because now they definitely know Alejandro was exposed a while ago in these two challenges in Search and Do Not, at the end of Search and Do Not Destroy, so they know who Alejandro really is, and they would split his freebies. And I think as soon as it comes to an eating challenge or something like Heather got eliminated by, where it messes up his looks, I think he just gets eliminated and he just can't do it, and he refuses to do it, getting himself eliminated. I don't think he takes it as bad as Heather, where he accidentally cuts off his own hair, because Alejandro would not be that clumsy. Finale between Duncan and Courtney. Now I do think that Duncan would win this finale. I think he would have more supporters and just overall stronger and smarter. I think the only thing Courtney would have over him is speed, because she's known to be really fast. especially in that one ice cream challenge in All Stars. I think she's just really fast. But speed is only really good at the final part of the race, which and Duncan being steady and careful, it would be, I think he would do best in the first part and the second part. And I do think Alejandro would support Duncan. Here, this is where I'm gonna go through it and see all the supports. Duncan, Courtney, 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 Duncan, Courtney, Courtney, Duncan, 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 Courtney, Duncan, 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 Duncan. Because most of these people will probably not support Duncan because, like, doesn't like Duncan, doesn't like Duncan, doesn't like Duncan, doesn't like Duncan, especially doesn't like Duncan, doesn't like Duncan. But, like, Owen would support Duncan. He doesn't dislike Duncan yet because, obviously, he likes Courtney. He's not hitting on Gwen. But, yeah, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. And I'll see you all in the next video.